Have you ever felt like your own family is actively trying to sabotage your future? Well, that's exactly what I'm 22F dealing with right now. My mom, 45F, and sister, 19F, just forced me to turn down a dream job offer at a major tech company in San Jose, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. Let me paint you a picture of how we got here. 2 years ago, my dad passed away in a car accident on his way home from work. He was the kind of father who never missed a single one of my coding competitions or academic events, even when he was swamped with work. Every Sunday morning, we had this tradition where he'd make his famous pancakes, basically just regular pancakes with chocolate chips, but he was so proud of them. He'd tell us stories about his college days while flipping them, making us laugh with his terrible dad jokes. Before the accident, our family life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. My parents had their issues, like any couple, but they balanced each other out beautifully. Dad was the calm, analytical one who could defuse any situation with his patient reasoning, while Mom tended to be more emotional and impulsive. They made it work, though, and our home felt safe and predictable. Everything changed after Dad died. It wasn't just the obvious loss, it was like our entire family dynamic imploded. Mom became emotionally dependent on my younger sister, Ashley, or maybe it was the other way around. Either way, they formed this intense, almost suffocating bond that left me feeling like an outsider in my own family. Ashley became the center of Mom's universe, while I was relegated to the role of the responsible one who was expected to sacrifice everything for the family's sake. I should explain about Ashley. Even before Dad's death, she was always the more dramatic one in the family. While I was the quiet kid who spent hours coding in my room, she was the social butterfly who needed constant attention. Dad used to balance Mom's tendency to indulge Ashley's every whim, but with him gone, there was no one to provide that reality check. The change in their relationship was gradual but unmistakable. Every minor crisis in Ashley's life became a family emergency. When she didn't make the cheerleading squad in her senior year of high school, Mom let her skip school for a week and maxed out a credit card buying her comfort gifts. When she couldn't get into her first-choice college, Mom spent 2 weeks calling administrators and even tried to get a loan to make a donation to the school. Meanwhile, I was trying to hold everything together. I maintained my 4.0 GPA in computer science, worked part-time at the university's IT department to help with bills, and took care of Tommy, 10M, my younger brother. Tommy's such a sweet kid, he's the only one who still seems to see me as a real person rather than just a utility to be used when needed. I graduated from college this year with a computer science degree, and against all odds, I landed an amazing job offer from one of the top tech companies in San Jose. The interview process was brutal, 6 rounds of technical interviews, coding challenges, and behavioral assessments. I prepared for months, staying up late to study algorithms and data structures while still keeping up with my family responsibilities. When I got the offer letter, I couldn't believe my eyes. The base salary was $125,000, with a signing bonus and stock options that made my head spin. This wasn't just a job, it was a chance to build a real career, to maybe even help my family financially once I was established. I could finally pay back all those student loans I took out because Mom couldn't co-sign for me, she was too busy paying off Ashley's shopping debts. But last week, Mom came into my room with that look on her face, you know, the one that means she's about to drop a bomb that will ruin everything. She sat on my bed, picked up the stuffed penguin Dad gave me for my 16th birthday, one of the few things I have left of him, and said, "Olivia, we need to talk about your job offer." My stomach instantly dropped. She proceeded to tell me that Ashley was struggling with her first year of college and needed to take a break. Apparently, she's dealing with anxiety and needs to come home. This means extra expenses, and Mom can't handle it alone. She said I needed to decline the San Jose offer and take a local job instead, so I could help with the bills and take care of Tommy. Here's the thing about Ashley's anxiety, it mysteriously appears whenever things don't go her way. Last month, she had no problem performing in a 3-hour dance showcase, but she suddenly developed debilitating social anxiety when her professors expected her to actually attend morning classes. She can spend hours at parties with her friends, posting every second on Instagram, but apparently gets panic attacks when it's time to study for exams. I tried to reason with Mom. I spent hours showing her my budget plans, explaining how I could send money home once I was settled, even offering to help find resources for Ashley's alleged mental health issues. But Mom wouldn't hear it. Family comes first, she kept saying, as if my dreams and aspirations weren't part of the family's well-being. The worst part? While I was having this conversation with Mom, Ashley was in her room, posting pictures of her latest shopping spree on Instagram. The same sister who's supposedly too anxious to continue college had no problem spending hundreds of dollars on new clothes and makeup. I saw the receipts in her email. Yes, we share a family computer. She spent $876 at Sephora just last week. That's more than what I spend on groceries in 2 months. When I pointed this out to Mom, she got defensive. Ashley is sensitive, she needs these things to feel better, she argued. You've always been the strong one, Olivia. You can handle disappointment better. That's when it hit me, being the strong one in this family meant being the one whose feelings and dreams didn't matter. The next few days were a blur of anxiety and desperate planning. I reached out to my college advisor, who was horrified by the situation but couldn't offer much help. I contacted the company's HR department to explain my situation and ask for more time, but they could only extend the deadline by a few days. Without family support or a co-signer for an apartment lease in San Jose, my options were rapidly disappearing. I even tried appealing to Mom's practical side. I created a detailed spreadsheet showing how my San Jose salary could help the family more in the long run than a local job paying half as much. I researched local therapists who could help Ashley with her anxiety while still allowing her to stay in school. I offered to set up regular video calls with Tommy to stay involved in his life. Nothing worked. Mom's response? Your father would be so disappointed in you for being so selfish. That hurt more than anything else. Dad was the one who bought me my first computer, who stayed up late helping me debug my first programs, who always told me to dream big. Using his memory to manipulate me felt like a new low. That's when something unexpected happened. Yesterday, my Uncle James, 42M, Dad's younger brother, showed up at our door unannounced. He's always been the cool uncle who actually listens, but we hadn't seen much of him since Dad's funeral. Apparently, he'd been trying to call Mom for weeks, but she'd been dodging his calls. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. While Mom was busy fussing over Ashley's latest crisis, she was crying because someone unfollowed her on Instagram, Uncle James, and I sat on the back porch. The same porch where Dad used to teach me about constellations on clear nights. I told him everything, about the job offer, Mom's demands, Ashley's spending habits, and how I felt like I was watching my future slip away. Tommy came out to join us while I was talking, curling up next to me like he always does when he senses I'm upset. He's so perceptive for a 10-year-old. While Ashley takes after Mom in looks and dramatics, Tommy inherited Dad's quiet intelligence and empathy. He's been my main source of genuine affection in this house since Dad died. Instead of just sympathizing, Uncle James got this determined look in his eyes, the same look Dad would get when he was working out a tough problem. Your dad would never have wanted this for you, he said, his voice firm but gentle. Then he made me an offer that could change everything. He has a guest house near his business in a city just an hour from San Jose, and he's willing to let me stay there rent-free until I get established. He even offered to co-sign any necessary loans. While we were talking, I got a text from my potential future manager at the tech company. She said she'd been impressed by my interviews and was looking forward to having me on the team. They're working on some cutting-edge AI projects that perfectly align with my interests. Reading that message while sitting next to the only adult who seems to care about my future felt like the universe was sending me a sign. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. But when we told Mom about this possibility, she exploded. The transformation was instant and terrifying. She went from the passive-aggressive manipulator I'd grown used to into someone I barely recognized. She accused me of abandoning the family, called me selfish, and then dropped a bomb I never saw coming. You're just like your father, always putting yourself first. Uncle James stepped in immediately, telling Mom she was out of line. He reminded her that Dad had worked himself to the bone to provide for this family, that he'd taken that late shift at work, the one he was driving home from when he had the accident, specifically to pay for Ashley's dance lessons. The argument that followed was intense, with Ashley joining in to call me selfish while Tommy cried in the corner. The things Mom said during that argument revealed so much about how she really sees me. Apparently, I've always been difficult, even as a child. My focus on academics instead of socializing was abnormal. Even my choice to study computer science instead of something more suitable for a girl was a sign of my rebellion. It was like years of pent-up resentment came pouring out. I'm now sitting in my room, surrounded by half-packed boxes. Uncle James insisted I start packing, just in case, trying to figure out what to do next. My laptop screen shows the job offer letter on one side and apartment listings in San Jose on the other. The deadline is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Uncle James is downstairs, waiting to help me move out if that's what I choose. But Mom's threat to cut me off completely if I leave keeps ringing in my ears. Tommy slipped a note under my door a few minutes ago. In his wobbly handwriting, he wrote, "I love you, Olivia. Dad would want you to be happy." I'm trying not to cry on the paper as I write this. I know this is long, but I needed to get it all out. Read it, I know this is complicated, but am I wrong for wanting to take this opportunity? Should I sacrifice my career to keep peace in the family? Or should I take Uncle James's offer and risk losing my relationship with Mom and Ashley? I've spent my whole life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who sacrifices. For once, I want to choose myself. But the guilt is eating me alive. What if Mom is right? What if I am being selfish? I'll update once I've made a decision. Right now, my hands are shaking so badly I can barely type this. Thank you for reading, if you've made it this far. Any advice would be appreciated. Thank you all for the overwhelming response. I'm reading every comment, even if I can't reply to them all. Uncle James is helping me think through my options, and I'll post an update soon. Update 1. First, thank you all for your supportive comments on my last post. Your words gave me the courage to make my decision. I chose to accept the job offer and take Uncle James's help, but what happened next was something I never expected. The morning after I made my decision, I woke up early to start moving my things. Mom and Ashley weren't speaking to me, which I expected. What I didn't expect was finding my laptop missing from my desk. After a frantic search, I found it in Ashley's room, and she tried to send an email declining my job offer from my account. Thankfully, she didn't know about the two-factor authentication I had set up. When confronted, Mom actually defended her. Ashley was just trying to protect our family. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right decision. Uncle James helped me pack everything into his truck while Mom and Ashley watched from the window, not even coming down to say goodbye. Only Tommy ran out to hug me, slipping his favorite action figure into my pocket and whispering, "For good luck." The drive to Uncle James's place was mostly quiet. He didn't push me to talk, just let me process everything while my favorite indie rock station played softly in the background. It reminded me of the drives I used to take with Dad when I needed to clear my head. Getting settled into the guest house was surreal. It's small but perfect for me, a studio with a tiny kitchen and a desk by the window. Uncle James had already set up a workstation for me, complete with dual monitors. "Your dad would have wanted you to have the right setup," he said. The real shock came when I was organizing my documents for the new job. I found an old envelope in Dad's work briefcase. Uncle James had kept it in storage. Inside were letters Dad had written to each of us kids, meant to be opened when we turned 25. I know I shouldn't have opened mine early, but with everything happening, I needed some connection to him. The letter, it changed everything. Dad wrote about his own struggles with family pressure when he was young. His parents had wanted him to take over their small business, but he chose to pursue engineering instead. He wrote about how proud he was of my interest in technology, and how he hoped I'd have the courage to follow my dreams even if it meant making difficult choices. But there was something else in the envelope, bank statements showing a separate savings account Dad had set up for my college education. An account I never knew about, with enough money to cover at least 2 years of tuition. When I showed these to Uncle James, his face darkened. He made some calls and discovered that Mom had somehow gained access to this account after Dad's death and drained it completely. I started my new job yesterday. The team is amazing, and the projects are even more exciting than I imagined. My manager personally showed me around and introduced me to everyone. During lunch, she mentioned that she'd been rooting for me since my interview, especially after I solved a particularly tricky coding problem in an unconventional way. Mom has been calling nonstop since I left, leaving voicemails that alternate between guilt-tripping and anger. Ashley posted a long rant on social media about how I've abandoned the family. I blocked them both for now. I need space to focus on my new start. Uncle James helped me set up a separate bank account at a different bank from Mom's, and I'm learning about financial independence from a colleague who teaches personal finance workshops on the side. I'm also looking into therapy options covered by my new health insurance. The hardest part is missing Tommy. We video chat every night before his bedtime when Mom's at her evening yoga class. He's been telling me about his science project, and his eyes lit up when I offered to help him code a simple game for it. I keep rereading Dad's letter whenever I feel guilty. One line particularly stands out: sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose your own path, even when others try to hold you back out of their own fear. There's more I need to look into regarding that college fund, and Uncle James is helping me gather information. I'll update again when I know more. For now, I'm focusing on learning my new job and building my new life, one day at a time. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks since my last update. I apologize for the delay, but what I discovered required careful investigation and legal consultation before I felt comfortable sharing. Remember the college fund I mentioned finding evidence of in Dad's papers? Well, Uncle James and I spent the past weeks tracing what happened to that money. What we uncovered was worse than we imagined. With help from Dad's old colleague at the bank, we found that Mom hadn't just accessed one account, she'd systematically drained multiple accounts Dad had set up. There was the college fund for me, a separate one for Tommy's future education, and even a general emergency fund. All emptied within months of Dad's death. Last week, I received a lengthy email from Mom. She must have realized we were investigating because she tried to get ahead of the story. The email started with a half-hearted apology about maybe being too harsh, but quickly turned into something else entirely. She wrote, "There's something you need to know about your father. When I was pregnant with you, he had an affair." The email went on to detail how she discovered the affair, how Dad had begged for forgiveness, and how she'd graciously taken him back. She claimed that this was why she'd always been a distant with me, because I reminded her of that painful time. She ended by suggesting that if I dropped my investigation into the accounts, we could work on healing our relationship. Here's the thing though, her story didn't add up. Uncle James helped me dig through Dad's old records, and we found something interesting. During the time Mom claimed Dad was having an affair, he was actually working double shifts to pay off Mom's credit card debt. We found old credit card statements showing massive charges from that period, all made by Mom. But the real bombshell came when we discovered Dad's old email account was still active. In it, we found years of correspondence with his lawyer about his concerns over Mom's spending habits. He'd been documenting everything, protecting assets, and setting up separate accounts for his children's futures. He wasn't having an affair, he was trying to protect us from Mom's financial irresponsibility. The emails also revealed something heartbreaking. Dad had been planning to leave Mom. Not for another woman, but because he was worried about her influence on us kids. The accident happened just 2 weeks before he was planning to file for divorce. I took all this information to a lawyer Uncle James recommended. She was appalled. Apparently, what Mom did with the accounts after Dad's death wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. She had forged documents to gain access to accounts she wasn't authorized to touch. The lawyer also found something else concerning. Ashley's supposed college expenses that Mom cited as the reason for needing my help? Most of that money went to shopping sprees and luxury items. We found credit card statements showing purchases at high-end stores, spa treatments, and even a secret spring break trip to Cancun, all while Ashley was supposedly too anxious to attend classes. I've spent hours going through Ashley's social media posts, documenting every expensive purchase, every luxury vacation, every shopping spree. The timeline matches perfectly with the disappearance of funds from Dad's accounts. Mom wasn't just enabling Ashley's behavior, she was funding it with money that was legally meant for all of us. The lawyer says we have a strong case for financial fraud. The documentation Dad left behind, combined with the paper trail of Mom's activities after his death, paints a clear picture of systematic theft and deception. Tommy's situation is what concerns me most now. He's still living in that toxic environment, watching Mom and Ashley spend money that should have been for his future. Uncle James is looking into our options for getting custody. The lawyer thinks we might have a case, especially given the financial misconduct. I haven't responded to Mom's email yet. The lawyer advised against any direct communication for now. But Mom and Ashley must sense something's wrong because they've started a smear campaign against me on social media, painting me as the ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family for a fancy tech job. The truth is, finding out about Dad's planned divorce has been both painful and validating. Painful because he died before he could protect us from Mom's toxic behavior, but validating because it proves he saw what was happening. He wasn't blind to Mom's manipulation and financial abuse, he was actively trying to stop it. I'm preparing all the documentation for legal action. Uncle James has been incredible through all of this, spending countless hours helping me build our case. My job is going well, and my team has been understanding about my need for occasional personal days to deal with all this. The next few weeks will be crucial as we move forward with legal proceedings. I'll update again when I can, but for now, I need to focus on building our case and keeping myself mentally healthy through all of this. My company's health insurance covers therapy, and I've started seeing someone to help process everything. At least now I know the truth. Dad wasn't the villain in Mom's story, he was trying to be our hero until the very end. Update 3, the last 6 weeks have been a whirlwind of legal proceedings, life changes, and final decisions. What started with discovering Dad's hidden letter has ended with complete transformation of our lives. The court case was surprisingly quick, thanks to the overwhelming evidence we had. The judge was particularly disturbed by Mom's systematic draining of Tommy's education fund. The most damning evidence came from Mom's own meticulous record-keeping. She'd actually documented every illegal transfer in her personal planner, probably never expecting anyone to find it. When confronted with the evidence in court, Mom's facade finally cracked. She admitted to everything, forging documents to access Dad's accounts, misusing the insurance money, and systematically hiding financial records. The judge's verdict was clear: full restitution of all misappropriated funds, plus interest. Mom is now facing criminal charges for fraud. Ashley's reaction was telling. Instead of supporting Mom, she immediately tried to distance herself, claiming she had no idea where the money for her shopping sprees came from. Her Instagram influencer dreams crashed when the court ordered her to return all items purchased with misappropriated funds. The biggest victory wasn't the financial settlement, it was getting custody of Tommy. When the judge saw the pattern of financial abuse and manipulation, plus evidence of Mom's ongoing destructive behavior, she granted me temporary custody, with Uncle James as co-guardian. Tommy moved in with me last week, and the change in him is already noticeable. He's smiling more, sleeping better, and excited about the coding projects we work on together. My career has taken off in ways I never expected. The project I'm leading has caught the attention of senior management, and I've been promoted to team lead. The stability of my job and income was a significant factor in the custody decision. Mom made one last attempt at manipulation, offering to forgive everything if I would drop the charges and return Tommy. Her lawyer advised her to stop after I produced recordings of her threatening phone calls. Ashley has been posting passive-aggressive updates about toxic family members and betrayal, but her influence has waned since she had to return her designer wardrobe. She's moved in with a friend, refusing to stay with Mom now that the money has dried up. Uncle James has been my rock through all of this. He's helped set up Tommy's new room, found him a great school nearby, and even started a new college fund for him, one that Mom can't access. We have weekly family dinners where we talk about Dad's good memories, slowly healing from years of manipulation. The guest house has become our home. Tommy's room is covered in science posters and programming flowcharts we made together. He's joining a robotics club at his new school, and his enthusiasm reminds me so much of Dad. I've started therapy to process everything, and it's helping me understand that none of this was my fault. Dad was trying to protect us, and now I'm finishing what he started. Looking back at my first post, I can hardly believe how far we've come. From almost giving up my dreams to now living them fully while providing Tommy the stable home he deserves. Mom and Ashley's true colors were revealed, but in losing them, we gained something more valuable: truth and freedom. To those who might be in similar situations, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And sometimes, the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Thank you for giving me the courage to investigate when my world was falling apart. Your support helped me find the strength to fight for justice, not just for myself, but for Tommy and Dad's memory. You changed our lives.